Pramod Patel.
Thank you, thank you. So as Deborah mentioned, I've spoken previously about the process of selling businesses and the steps that are involved. So today I was going to discuss some of the extra things that are involved when it comes to selling a franchise business. This way we have franchise owners who can really prepare, and so I can help them sell their businesses much faster and without more complications. So the first thing to really understand is when you sell a business and you sell a franchise business, there's a franchise agreement that's being sold. What that franchise agreement is there's a franchisor, which is corporate headquarters, and the franchisee, and they have a contract that governs what the franchisee can do and what the franchisor is responsible for. That's a franchise agreement. Typically, it'll have a certain lifetime to it, whether it's 10 years or 20 years, and a certain cost to it. So when the buyer buys your business, that's going to be transferred to them, but it's important to know in advance how much is that transfer fee going to be. Again, if you tell the buyer in the middle of the transaction, even if it's not a large amount, it could cause some unwanted complications. So another thing that's really important to understand in advance of finding your buyer for a franchise business is going to be understanding what is required for upgrades. When a franchise business is sold, typically that's when the franchisor will ask for upgrades in terms of signage or equipment, design, layout, look, whatever it may be. And if that cost becomes very, very expensive, well, guess what? It's going to affect the sales price you get for the business. And if you don't find out in advance, it could become another monkey wrench that potentially derails your transaction. So this is an important thing to really find out in advance. Another very important thing to find out is what is your franchisor looking for? You just can't pull any buyer off the street and sell the business to them. Franchises typically have some minimum requirements. Number one, they want to know what the net worth of the individual is. So if you have a certain minimum criteria the franchisor is looking for, you need to make sure you're screening your buyers as such. And number two, most franchises also require industry experience. Even if it isn't direct industry experience, for example, we can't take somebody who's been working somewhere where they have zero customer interaction and all of a sudden put them in a franchise business that has them working with customers on a daily basis. It just doesn't fly, and it won't work. Another thing really is important beyond all that is going to be understanding what your time frame is for closing. As I mentioned before, if you have an independent business and everything's very smooth and there's no issues, you could be closing an escrow as quickly as 30 days. With the franchise business, that could be obviously a whole lot longer. And here's a few of the reasons why. Number one, when you find your buyer, they have to be not only approved by the franchisor, which could take 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks, then they have to go to franchisor training. And that doesn't necessarily happen every day. That might be the next training for franchisees might be 6 weeks out. That franchisee training might be 3 weeks long. All of a sudden, your escrow, which you thought would be 30 days, turns into a 3-month process. So you need to, before you're working with buyers, understand what the calendar is like so you can manage your transactions accordingly. This way, things don't go longer than you expect. So there's another hidden aspect that a lot of franchisees actually aren't aware of. Once you sell your franchise business, what are you going to do? It's important to understand your franchise agreement has non-compete covenants. What that means is if you're running a franchise restaurant that sells burgers, you most likely can't go off and open up your own independent burger shop because the franchise agreement you signed gave you access to proprietary technology, proprietary information, basically intellectual property that the franchisor wants to protect and cannot stop you from, and doesn't want you to use in an independent business. So, that's the long and short of it. Thank you.